I feel like I can shoot your car successfully. 3, 2, 1. And again. Check that out. So literally all this AK-47 bullet does to the side of the Max 9 is take the paint off. Wow, that's some good Swedish steel you got there.
Exactly.
Cars.co.za. Hello and welcome back to the Cars.co.za podcast studio. And today it is my great pleasure to introduce Nicol Lowe to our audience. Nicol, how are you?
Very well yourself, Giro.
Fantastic to have you here. We've spoken about doing this for ages. I'm so happy it's happening. Today we're going to be discussing bulletproof cars in South Africa and the bulletproofing of cars in South Africa and how they save lives, how they work, how much it costs. And Nicol is the business development manager at a company called SVI, which, if I'm not mistaken, is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, bulletproofer of cars in South Africa, or armourer of cars, maybe we should say.
I believe so, Giro. So if you look at the market from the military side, civilian, security, we're in all those segments, and I believe we armour the most vehicles per year.
Armour the most per year. Fantastic. So great to have you here, and we're going to go in depth into how these vehicles work and how Nicol and the team of engineers pull them apart and bulletproof them. And we've got quite a bit of history, and we'll put the link in the description below because SVI also manufactures military vehicles, which Nicol kindly allowed me to shoot with an AK-47 a couple of years ago. So the footage of that, and we drove it through a wall as well.
I just want to say, you caused some damage.
Yes.
I'll send you the bill on that.
The team also allowed me to drive it through a wall. That was probably the biggest, heaviest vehicle I've ever driven. 8-ton vehicle. It was amazing. But Nicol, let's get into your background because you have a fascinating background. So correct me if I'm wrong here, but you started off at ProDrive in the UK. Well, you studied engineering. Started off at ProDrive in the UK developing a Bentley engine, which was really cool. Went over to Ford where you developed basically Ranger and Transit engines, drove them all over the world, hot weather, cold weather, basically putting together the engines that people drive every day, which is really exciting. Then it was on to Joule, which was a great hope for South Africa. South Africa's first electric car actually would have probably been the world's electric car, right? You were way ahead of Tesla, for instance.
Yeah, no, for sure. So definitely an interesting background. So as you mentioned, I started studying engineering, and I think as all young engineers crazy about cars and bikes, I wanted to get involved with Formula One. That didn't quite work out, but I had a very interesting career as an engineer. So yes, that Bentley project to start off with as a young engineer, that was crazy, driving mules with 1,000 Newton meters without traction control in the UK. Quite interesting.
In the wet.
Yeah, and then my stint at Ford for 5 years at Dunton Technical Facility to work at a place with 2,000 employees in that building, half of them engineers. You learn a lot of all the systems and so on. You mentioned the climatic sign-off. I can keep you busy with stories there. Experience temperatures down to minus 37 degrees. So one of the party tricks we used to do is take a cup of boiling water, go outside, chuck it in the air, and it comes down as snowflakes. So, yeah, interesting time there. And then obviously came back to South Africa for the Joule project, which was very exciting at first. And as you mentioned, I think Joule was definitely in the leading race of passenger sort of electric cars. Yeah, Tesla were there with a sort of sport car based on the Lotus platform and so on. The Leaf followed the Joule.
Wow.
And we can talk about that maybe in another podcast, how that project went and so on.
I'd love to.
Very interesting, and also the involvement with the visionary Kobus Meyering and everything that happens in South Africa, interactions with EDAC, German company, ED Hardas company in Spain that would have done the testing and so on. Yeah, but it was a bit depressing towards the end when the funding dried up, and we can talk all about it maybe later and the reasons why the Joule failed. But then it was time to move on to something else. And Hannes, which is basically your boss, I understand.
Yes, sort of, yeah.
So, yeah, we come a long way. So I met Hannes at university. We were both students. He had a few test cars. He was writing for this art website. And I remember siphoning fuel for Hannes from a city runabout to fuel something like a BMW 330 at the time. And Hannes always told me I'll work for him one day when he gets to Car magazine, and he did. He was editor at Car. That was a time the demise of the Jewel, and then I moved over into Jake Venter, which is also well known in the industry. Sorry, he passed away not too long ago. I took his position as technical editor for Car magazine for 10 years, sort of trying to explain what I've learned in the industry, technical things about cars, to the general public, which is interesting from an engineering point of view, to dumb things down, but not to the extent where you lose your engineering friends as well, or interest, but to make something
Make
sort
it
of easy to
understandable,
understand
yeah,
for the general public. But that was an amazing time, 10 years of my life. As you know, being a journalist, I mean, we attended a few launches together.
Yes.
I remember Bullet Mustang, for example. And
I've got such good memories of Bullet.
So,
you scared the crap out of me in the mountains in France, but it was a good launch.
But
yeah.
anyway, so yeah, very interesting background, very blessed. And then I sort of accidentally got into armored vehicles and industry.
Amazing, and that's where you are now as business development manager. You also handle quite a lot of their PR and creating footage for them and B-roll that we've used as well, and we're going to definitely use some of it over this podcast. So stick around, because Nicol and his team have created some amazing footage of high-speed bullets going through windshields and car parts and vehicle testing and all the rest of it. So I think this is a fascinating topic, and let's maybe start with what I think is the bread and butter of your business, if I understand it, and that's sort of creating bulletproof security vehicles which accompany trucks on South African roads.
Yeah, so the commercial side of vehicle armoring is obviously where the volumes lie. If you think about the mining sector, I would say most of our sort of commercial vehicles, bucky applications, go to the mines. On a mining site, you would not patrol without the armored vehicles, just too dangerous. We know about all the Zama attacks and so on. Also, the conditions on the mine are quite bad, so that's why buckies they are quite popular in South Africa, and there's also a very popular vehicle to armor. But your commercial armoring is completely different to your civilian armoring. Commercial, you want something that is effective, cost effective as well, and can stop your AK-47 R1, R5. That's what the Zamas use. And you need to be able to armor a vehicle in a quick time frame, so call it 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
It's non-discrete, it's cheap and cheerful, it does the job, but that's not what the civilian wants. It wants your discrete armored vehicle that nobody can tell. So there's a big difference in that.
So your colleague Yaku, I think, founded SVI. Hell of a nice guy. They hosted us when we shot the Max 9, and probably the best braai I've ever had in my life. But he allowed me to drive an Armoured 7 Series, and I honestly could not tell it was armoured. And I suspect that's what civilians want, right? You don't want to know it's armoured.
Yeah, exactly. So you mentioned Yaku. He's our CEO at SVI Engineering, founding member as well. And it's very important for the civilian market, as you say. You want to be discreet. We can talk about the different levels of armoring a bit later. But you want to go about your daily business as you would have in your standard car. But you just want a safety net around you to know that if you're in that hijack situation, if you're in that situation where you feel unsafe, you don't have to. You protect it. So that is the additional layer of safety which an armored vehicle can provide you. I get the question sometimes that, like, is South Africa now so bad that we all have to drive in armored cars? And the answer is actually no, it's probably not that bad. But if you think about your modern vehicle that you're driving, you've got ABS, you've got airbags, you've got crumple zones, you've got all these safety systems built into your car, which you probably hope you never use. And it's the same with the armoring level to your car. It's an additional level of safety that you've got in your vehicle, which you probably hope that you'll never ever use, but just nice to have it.
So do you offer, if I come to you with a vehicle you've never armored before, right? So I don't know, let's say I come to you with a Mercedes G-Wagon, for instance. What is the process to then armor that vehicle? How long would that take, and how sort of intensive is it to get it right?
Okay, we've done a few G-Wagons.
Oh, there we go.
I'll mention another example, Maserati Levante. We got a one-off that we had to do for a client. So first of all, we don't like to do once-off projects because it's a lot of engineering effort to develop an armoring kit for a vehicle. So if you look at the names of sales figures, the ones that sell most, those are the ones we like to armor. If they can take the armoring level, if they can take the mass and so on. So you get a once-off, it's a bit problematic in the sense that it takes a lot of engineering effort. We'll probably never recoup over one vehicle. So the process that happens is, first of all, the client comes to us. He tells us what is the risk that he's facing. Is it basically just handguns, so anti-hijack, maybe even the kidnapping problem that we seem to be getting more and more in South Africa.
Yeah.
So your B4 level is probably okay for that. So that's what the Maserati owner wanted, B4 level for his Levante, but now we've never done an armoring kit on that vehicle. We don't see them often on the roads anyway. So now that vehicle comes in and the engineering process kicks off. So this vehicle gets then stripped from the interior point of view, and then it needs to be scanned. So we've got all the engineering tools to 3D scan the interior of that vehicle, because everything needs to be developed in CAD first. So we sort of build the armoring vehicle on the computer, computer-aided design, that's what CAD stands for. So you can actually develop the whole armoring kit on the computer, see that everything fits. That takes a long time to do. If we're in a situation where we've got a connection or a contract or like with a big OEM, so like we're fully approved by Ford, we're a QVM partner, they might supply some of the CAD data. That helps a lot because that saves a lot of time. But then you get the CAD model, and then you have to sort of transfer that into the real vehicle. Now, Kevlar that you use for your B4 armor level is very expensive. You use steel armor plate for B6. We'll get to assault rifle later. And to cut those materials and make a mistake, you can't do. So first of all, you use templates for a new vehicle. So we will use cardboard, any of those. Almost like armor the vehicle with cardboard to see that everything fits. And then you move on to the actual material, start to fit it to the vehicle. This whole process, if it's a once-off new vehicle we have to do, it can take 6 months to do the complete exercise. If it's a vehicle we do every day, like a Toyota Hilux, for example, or now the VIP vehicle of choice seems to be Land Cruiser 300. We do a lot of them. So once you develop the kit, it's easy because it's just repeat. It becomes a production process. So the kit is available. You bring your vehicle in, 2-3 months later, it's done. If it's a VIP vehicle.
So if the kit is developed, then you're still looking at a 2 to 3 month process.
Yes.
So if I'm a client, right, I come to you. I've just bought a Land Cruiser 300. I somehow managed to get my hands on one, and I say to you, right, here's my car. So I bring you this brand new car, and then do you like just strip it? I mean, does everything come out of there so that you can, create the CAD drawings and that sort of thing?
Can you imagine the clients we deal with, they've got connections, so the first ones would have gone to them anyway. So yes, you're correct. So that vehicle comes in sometimes with almost like 0 Ks on the clock. And it's a bit frightening for the owner sometimes to see what we do to the vehicle. So we pull it in. Obviously, the vehicle gets wrapped to protect it from an external point of view. You don't want to put any nicks or scratches on it. And then everything gets stripped from the interior. So our guys are very good at stripping vehicles in a quick time frame. And to see a Land Cruiser 300, the bare metal on the inside, brand new vehicle, everything that's stripped like the seats and interior and dash and so on gets bubble wrapped, put on shelving behind the vehicle to protect it. And then it's time to start the armoring process. So you sort of build up this armor vehicle from the bottom up. With all the armoring, so let's talk about B6 armor level. So that's your AK-47, R1, R5 assault rifles, the highest level you can go to in South Africa without a special permit. So that means all the standard glass gets removed and replaced by 38 millimeters armored glass.
Wow, that's
serious, and it's heavy.
Yeah.
Then we use steel armor plate for all the body areas, so firewall, pillars, doors. And because of the mass, we won't armor all the way to the back. We will put a bulkhead behind the rear bench, for example, on Land Cruiser 300. So you don't care if your luggage take a hit in the back, as long as the occupant cell is safe. Some of the companies out there would say they will save you a bit of mass by using composite materials. We believe in armored steel plate for a very good reason. So composites, you will save mass. They're quite thick at V6 level, so it's difficult to get them in everywhere. They're not flexible. And also with a composite material, if you keep on shooting at the same point, you'll eventually go through. Armor steel plate, never.
What is a composite material made of?
So composite is in B4 level. You talk about Kevlar, but you also get some ceramic materials and so on, very like space age kind of materials, which are very nice from a weight point of view. But as I say, even your glass can actually be seen as a composite because it consists of layers.
Okay.
So your armored glass is not just a thick piece of glass. It's a glass build-up of layers. So the external layer is glass. Glass is good under compression but not tension. So what you need to combine it with is your engineering plastic or polycarb, as we call it. That is good under tension and not compression. So you get glass, engineering plastic, glass, engineering plastic. It can be several of those layers that builds up this armored glass, and that gives you an opportunity, or it can actually then absorb all the energy from the round coming in. So that is the glass. So just to get back on the Land Cruiser 300 project. So change the glass, get all the armored steel in place, make sure there's overlap. So overlap is where the materials go over each other, no ballistic gaps. So that's also very important for the listeners out there. If you're into the armored, if you're interested in armored vehicles, make sure to also audit the company doing it. Because I tell you I build a B6 armored vehicle, I don't tell you how well I armor it. I tell you which materials I use. I don't tell you that there might be ballistic gaps or not, or there's an overlap where materials overlap and closes a ballistic gap. So some companies would, for example, not armor pillars of a vehicle. So we do all of that. So then you get built up, and the tricky part is the finishing. Because you add material to the vehicle, now all the original door panels, the roof liner, the dash, everything needs to go back to look factory OEM, but you added 5 or 6 mil armored steel behind it. So each little panel needs to be trimmed, some needs to be reupholstered.
Wow.
And to get it to that fit and finish to sort of be acceptable for your VIP client is quite a trick to do.
Wow. That's intense.
No,
I can
for
understand why it takes 2 to 3 months. I mean, that's just to reassemble the car must take quite a while. And
Exactly.
and I expect that these are quite demanding clients. They don't want the car to look not like rubbish. You know, it's got to look
No, for
stock.
sure.
Yeah.
And then obviously it's an engineering driven process. So towards the end, there's a quality. We are not ISO 9001 certified quality management system, but to keep all those processes going and to pass all the quality criteria throughout the build, and towards the end with a sign off, you do, for example, a water test on the vehicle. We've got our own water testing bay to see if there's any leaks.
Wow.
But there's rattles and squeaks. There's the critical bolts in the car. So, for instance, your seat belts and so on need to be torqued and marked and need to be signed off. So there's a lot of those that need to happen before the vehicle gets handed over to the client. And I'm into diagnostics in my previous life, so we do a diagnostic check on the vehicle when it comes in and it leaves to see that we didn't disturb any of the sensors or any of the connectors to make
Because the
sure
airbags still have to work.
that everything is fine. So we do actually do some airbag testing as well for some OEMs.
Oh, wow.
So some of the approval processes we have to go through for OEMs. So we're fully approved by Ford South Africa, and that's on the whole range. We do mostly Ranger and Everest, the new generation. Mercedes, we are on V-Class. You can buy a V-Class from any dealership.
And full factory warranty.
Full factory
Wow.
warranty, motor plan, everything in place.
That's
We're
fantastic.
very close with another German manufacturer on an SUV. For that one, we had to do ballistic testing on the vehicle. Now, that is something else. When it comes out, I think it will take over the media in South Africa, of course, to see somebody shoot 400 rounds at a brand new SUV.
400 rounds.
400 rounds, and everything is tested, and it's not like a random thing. There's stickers on the gas where they think the weak points would be. It needs to be the right speed of round. It's all measured. It's all the engineering process. It's a company from Germany that came through to do the testing.
They come out here to test.
And a test like that costs 2 million rands, excluding the vehicle.
Are you at liberty to say how much it costs or would cost a customer to come to you and armor a Land Cruiser? I mean, or is that just like price on application?
No. So if you go to our website, we've even got a pricing tab where you can sort of look at pricing for vehicles. It is quite expensive. So I always like to use a Hilux double cab as an example, just because people know what it is and sort of what to expect. And by the way, if you armor a vehicle and it's a bakkie, it's actually one of the better ones to do because the occupant space in a bakkie is quite small.
Okay.
Compare a double cab to SUV, we have to go sometimes all the way to the back. Where a bakkie is easier in that sense. So let's just go through the pricing and what is done to the vehicle. So if we talk about handgun protection, so you want something that you can drive to school, kids will be safe, and you're not a high-end individual, you haven't got a price on your head as such. B4 is fine. So what we do is 21 millimeters of armored glass change, and then Kevlar for most of the large body areas, even though you still use steel armor plate for thinner sections like the pillars and so on. You add about 280 kilograms to that vehicle, which is well within the payload, which is a ton for a Hilux.
The GVM,
yes.
yeah.
The cost of that is close to 500,000 rands for a conversion like that. You can obviously add a few extras, run flat rings for your tires, a public announcement system with siren if you want to speak to people outside. Or there's quite a few options you can add, but the basic cost, call it about 500,000. So if you want to move up to your B6 level, which stops AK-47, and we talked about what materials you need to use, 38mm glass, armor steel plate, and you use your Hilux example, you add about 650 kilograms to that vehicle.
Sure.
We also upgrade the front suspension on that vehicle because remember, it's designed to carry a ton, but more towards the rear. So now because the occupant cell is more towards the front, we upgrade the front suspension, springs and dampers as well. So you're looking at around 800,000 rands for a B6 conversion on a double cab Hilux. So it is not cheap when it comes to the VIP discrete armoring, but what I've seen in the field is that if you want to depreciation proof your vehicle, armor it. Because there's always a shortage. So if you want to get all your money back in your vehicle, armor it, drive it for a year, 2 years, 3 years, get all your money back. That's what we see in the field.
Oh, I see. So basically, it allows somebody who wants an armored vehicle to sort of jump the queue, essentially, and they don't have to. There's no waiting time for the construction or for the fit out.
Yeah, so you struggle to find decent quality second-hand armored vehicles out there because the ones that are decent and good price are already gone, and the ones that left over you should be careful of. And sometimes also they get charged a huge premium because unfortunately people go through situations which is traumatic. I mean, if you go through a hijack event, tomorrow you want an armored car, you look what's out there and you want to buy one now, then it's a risky position to be in from a buying perspective because you might buy a vehicle with inferior quality at an elevated price. So if you can plan these things ahead, it makes a lot more sense.
So if I found an armored vehicle on our site, and there are a few armored Land Cruisers available on Cars.co.za, can I phone you, give you the VIN, and you can tell me if you guys did the armoring as opposed to another company?
Yes, 100%. So also what you can do is look on the glass. The armoring company's logo would normally be on the glass.
Okay.
But you send me the VIN number, we run it through our system. We can tell you exactly what was done, when it was done, and any history we've got on the vehicle. That's easy.
What happens if a car takes a couple of bullets and it's deemed repairable? The car comes back to you, I assume, and it is refitted?
So when the armoring materials are damaged, so for instance the glass, we would do the fitment of the glass. Will come back to us. It's a specialized job, especially when it gets to B6 level. It's very heavy. So you need a special set of equipment to change. You can't just take it to any glass shop down the road. They won't be able to handle the mass, for example, and to fit it. And to give you an idea, B6 windscreen on a Land Cruiser 300, you're talking about 150,000 rands for a replacement.
Wow.
So you don't want to drop it. So, and then when it comes to the body armoring, if it's Kevlar, that probably needs to be replaced. But if it's armored steel plate, we'll inspect it. And then sometimes, I mean, most of the times actually with armored steel plate, it's still fine to reuse. So then for the body damage, you can take it to a normal body shop. They can do it, not an issue. What I can say is we discussed the VIP armoring side, and we do get attacks at some points where we need to fix the vehicles, but where the attacks mostly happen is on commercial sides. So when we do the mining sector vehicles with the security kits, and just for comparison, if you use that double cab again, B6 armoring kit, which will be flat glass. So if you see these vehicles driving with split windscreens, gun ports and so on, that's to save cost, because a flat armored glass piece is a lot less expensive than a curved armored glass. And it's a kit that you build in. So pricing wise, if you're a security company out there, you've got a double cab Hilux, you want armored at B6 level, close to 400,000 ex-VAT. So half the price
I
of
see.
the discrete.
But it doesn't look as good, obviously.
No, it doesn't look
Yeah.
as good. At least the Armoured is also going into the doors now, where the older kits used to be like a double door system. You have to climb in, very claustrophobic, not nice. It's very better. It's much nicer now than it used to be.
I've seen one of those. You showed me a vehicle when I was at SVI with the double door system. It's actually quite interesting. So you got the car door, then you have to get in through like a sort of a porthole,
Exactly.
basically into
So that's gone now.
Okay.
The Armoured is also into the door.
Okay.
But talking about attacks, so we had a vehicle from a mine the other day, 57 shots on the one side.
Wow.
And if you look at where they shoot, it's headshots they're aiming for. We see where the damage is on the glass, and they just spray the car as well. So
57 bullets.
shots. And I mean, we're doing this recording in Cape Town. People think the Western Cape is all fine. It is mostly, as you know. If we go to the wrong areas in any province, you'll be in trouble.
Yeah.
But we, a lot of our vehicles are running here with certain companies delivering goods, and they come back with holes in them, and we need to fix it. So we've got an office in Cape Town, obviously the main facility in Pretoria.
Okay.
But we do see the damage on the vehicles, and it actually makes us proud because we're in the saving lives business. So nice thing about my job is I get to speak to some of these security guards that we've basically saved his life. And it's incredible. He can go back to his family, he can pitch up to work the next day. The one story I can tell you is this one guy, they were following, I think, a truck with valuables at night, and you could see in his rearview mirror a police vehicle approaching. So afterwards, obviously realized fake police, blue lights and everything, even
Wow.
police uniforms.
Wow.
They got out and they stopped the vehicle. So if you're in a security guard in a convoy like that, you've got certain ways, and you're not allowed, for instance, to get out of the vehicle. That's one thing. So when they told him get out of the vehicle, it was always going to be a bit suspicious. So they said, no, they can't get out. They can provide all the documentation whatsoever through, we've got gun ports that you can open, and you can sort of talk to people on the outside in the security vehicles. And eventually the fake cop just walked back, and he came back with an AK-47, pointed it to him and said, yeah, now you're getting out. And he says, no, I'm not getting out. And he started to open fire. And you could see, we've seen the in-car footage, because there's dash cams, obviously, with those kind of things. All of those, that information is actually, we don't want to get it into the public domain, because it just puts people at risk. But you could see that the guy really had a fright, and he was shouting inside the cabin, and he actually threw himself flat, and he thought that will sort of help in a sense, because you never know what you're going to do under fire. And you could hear the click, 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 click as the shots were going off. And at some point, he was sitting upright and thinking, okay, well, I'm not getting hit now. I might as well just drive away. So he put the car in gear and just drove off. And they will save, I mean, we had to repair the car afterwards, obviously a lot of damage, but we saved his life. So in that sense, it's a feel-good job as well.
Yeah, that is, I mean, you must just have stories for days. I mean, are you at liberty to share, say, a civilian story of a car that saved a civilian's life?
So not even from a ballistic protect, but you get these spiking attacks where they throw like the spikes on the road, and they want you to stop. So one of our clients, he fitted the run flat rings to his LX 570 Lexus. The specs on those run flats are you can drive for 50 Ks at 50 kilometers per hour. You can drive faster and it lasts for less distance or so. He got spiked the one evening, and he had to drive 50 Ks home on flat tires, basically, to avoid the attack. So we've got that run flat actually hanging on the wall to show how a run flat will look like after 50 Ks, because that's the spec.
Wow.
So it gets melted on the outside, but he got home safe. Another of our client, he was sitting next to the road in I think it was actually a B4 vehicle, and he got attacked by a guy with a crowbar. So not a ballistic attack, but he just heard obviously the banging on the outside, and he just saw this banging of a crowbar of a guy trying to get into the cabin, probably for valuables or whatever, and they couldn't get in. And he was actually quite scared. He thought like he saw a bit of blood on the window, and it was actually from the attacker, not on his own.
Yeah.
So he could also just start the car and drive away. So ballistic attacks are one thing, but even like, for example, if you're afraid of people dropping bricks from the highway bridges, or even just stone throwing, those kind of things, this is not smash and grab. This is completely a next level of protection that you have in your armored vehicle.
It's so incredible to hear these stories, and I think that we don't, with stories like this, we're not trying to scaremonger here. But the reality is that if you're transporting high value goods, you need protection. You know, it's as simple as that. And I get civilian protection as well, because, I mean, the kidnapping thing scares the hell out of me. I mean, they're not going after hugely rich people anymore. They're going after, you know, guys where they can get 500 grand out of, or whatever the case may be. And I must be honest, I don't feel in the Western Cape as sort of under threat as I do, say, in other provinces of the country. But it does appeal to me to be able to sit at a robot and just have that peace of mind that no matter what, especially if I've got B6 armoring, like, I'm going to be able to drive away if I come under some sort of attack. That peace of mind, I think, is probably what people are paying for.
Exactly. I think if you talk about provinces at the moment, most of our armored vehicles, I would say, come from the KZN province, which is a bit worrying. And secondly, probably Gauteng. But you that's right. So you're basically paying for peace of mind. We've got a few interesting marketing slogans that we use. So wave, be kind to hijackers type of thing. Or leave your valuables on the seat. Or take the shortcut home.
Yeah.
Because it's things that if there were no risks out there, you wouldn't even think of. But because we live in a country where there is a risk, you have to sort of prepare for that. So an armored vehicle does help you in the sense that even in the Western Cape, if you drive to the airport, which you would do from your journalist point of view early in the mornings or late in the evenings, not the greatest area to be in. You don't want to stop at the traffic lights for too long. But in Gauteng, KZN as well. And it just gives you that peace of mind, especially with your family. So I think if you can afford it, you would.
Yeah.
It is unfortunately very expensive. That is most of the materials are imported. I mean, the glass comes from South America. Special, we use AGP glass. They also, you remember the BMW i8 with the Gorilla glass that also being done by AGP. So they're worldwide supplier of special glass, including armored glass. And then you get your armored steel plate coming from Sweden, and then with the exchange rate to the rand and all the hours we have to work on the vehicle, it's just a very expensive exercise, unfortunately.
I was about to say, I mean, 2 to 3 months of labor is not a joke. I mean, I just overhauled one of my cars, and the labor was interesting. So, I mean, paying for a team of people to work for 3 months on your car, I mean, that's going to cost something. You know, that's unavoidable, basically.
No, definitely. And then you can think about load shedding as well, how it impacts all the industries out there. But if you have to weld armored steel plate, you need your generators running all the time. It just inflates all the cost and so on. But yeah, we're trying to do the best we can and provide the quality products our clients desire.
And you also do some special cars, the Max 3, which I believe is Land Cruiser based. And that's sort of, well, I actually wouldn't even know how to describe it. I'll leave it to you. I mean, what is the Max 3 sort of built for?
I think you need to come and drive it.
Yes.
That's it. But what it is remember, again, for your security, especially on the mining sector, you sort of need an anti-riot vehicle. So you need a vehicle that your Hilux or your Ranger buckies, they do all the patrol work. They're armored anyway. But then you see the group of 20, and that's what happened. 20 Zamas coming in, all armored with AK-47s. Then you need to call for backup. And this is the sort of backup vehicles that you call. So we know about Mambas and Yalas. Those type of vehicles are getting very old now. And even refurbished ones will cost more than, for example, a new Max 3. And tomorrow they won't start. But if you base your anti-riot vehicle on a Land Cruiser 70 series, you know you're going to have a reliable vehicle. And it's going to start tomorrow and will do the trick. So what Max 3 is we buy a Land Cruiser 79, we buy the single cab 4.5 turbo diesel V8, and then we take the soft skin off. So if you want to buy a cab, if you roll to your Land Cruiser, speak to us because we've got plenty lying around. And then we manufacture this B6 hull of the Max 3 that then bolts to the chassis. So essentially we marrying the B6 armored hull with the Toyota chassis. And the footage will probably be there. It's a very aggressive, impressive sort of vehicle. So it's also a show of force. But if you talk about ballistic protection, that's the best you can, because you don't put armoring materials in a soft skin. You bolt the whole thing of armoring material. So there's very, very few ballistic gaps in that vehicle. You're 100% protected. And an APC, the armored personnel carrier, can carry 8 people. So then you sort of like call it a station wagon version of the Max 3. 6 people in the back, 2 up front. You can add a hydraulic scraper up front, which you can lower or raise, depending if you need to push obstacles out of the way, if you need to clear a road. You can have riot mesh in front of the glass to protect it. You can have your LED light bars on the roof. You can almost like turn night into day by a flick of a switch. We've even got one of the clients, they call it an LRAD system on the roof, long range acoustic device.
Wow.
So it's like a massive speaker costing like R1 million worth of system that can do white noise and focus it on a certain area. So if you've got a crowd, like a riot uproar, and you focus this on the crowd and you turn up the volume, the first thing you'll do is close your ears and drop all your weapons. So it's one way of combating that.
So that client came to you and said, look, I've got this thing. And then you had to engineer to fit it on the roof. So that was obviously a custom job.
Exactly. So what I'm basically saying is the Max 3 is sort of a base, and you can add to it what you need for your specific requirements. You also get a double cab, which is quite nice, but that's like a 4-seater. And then a latest addition to that is the third axle. So basically a 6-wheel Max 3.
A 6x6?
No, it's a 6x4.
Okay.
You can do a 6x6, but a 6x4 is basically to increase the GVM of the vehicle. So it can be now a 5.5 ton GVM vehicle. So you can build ambulances, or you can put weapon systems on the back. The idea is to keep it still powertrain-wise Toyota. Because otherwise, if you do 6x6, you need a different diff at the back. You need the drive shafts going through. You add a bit of complexity to the vehicle that can also be problematic. And the testing that we've done is like a 6x4 will get you 95% to the places where a 6x6 would have at a fraction of the cost.
Okay.
So if you look at a Max 3, just a costing point of view, you're talking about a R2 million vehicle, which is not bad considering that the Land Cruiser is almost R1 million by itself before we convert it. So R2 million vehicle will buy you this anti-riot. If you want to convert it to a 6-wheeler, you add another 350. If you wanted to convert it to 6x6, add another $1 million. So that's a sort of ballpark figures you're looking at.
And is Max 3 road legal?
So we're in the process now of homologating it to the higher mass category. It's a 2-bladed sword, because now if you go for the higher category, you can't drive it with a code 8 anymore. So, or the previous code 8, now it's called something else, E, B, E, C. I've forgotten all the new licensing codes. But so, watch this space, because the brake testing is happening at Gerotech as we speak.
Okay.
And there's some other interesting homologation things like lights and view angles and so on. Then you'll be able to drive your Max 3 legally on the road as well.
And a Max 3, would it... would the Toyota drivetrain, where would that be serviced?
So we had a few at Toyota dealerships on their lifts as well. I had a few interesting calls. What is the mass of this vehicle? Because we have it on our lift at the Toyota dealership.
Probably a 4-ton lift.
So what's interesting with Land Cruiser 70 series, you can't buy it with a service plan. It comes without a service plan. You pay for services. So all the other Toyota vehicles, for example, you buy with service plan, or that's optional, but not 70 series. So most of the mines and so on where it is used, they've got their own service department servicing all their vehicles anyway.
Okay.
But some of our clients do take it to the Toyota dealership, which makes for a fun day for the technicians. And the good thing about that vehicle is you can get the space everywhere. I mean, there's a Toyota dealership on most towns in South Africa. So it's standard Land Cruiser 79 V8 powertrain. So if you need any component there, it's just off the shelf.
That's so smart. So basically, instead of going through what would have been an enormously costly exercise to develop a chassis and a drivetrain, you just took probably what is one of the toughest chassis and drivetrains of all time and then turned it into the Max 3, basically.
Exactly, and also to keep the cost low. If you have to develop a unique version of that, it'd probably be double the price.
But Max 9, the one I drove, that is a complete custom job, like from ground up.
Yeah, so that is a bespoke military vehicle. So Jaco, my CEO, he's from a military design background. That is his expertise. We always say at SVI, we what we learn from the military side is almost like a Formula One racing team. So what you learn from your Formula One, you can sort of introduce in time to your main production vehicles, the technology. And the same we do with the armored vehicle. So we learn from Max 9. And then that technology can filter down. But yeah, just to tell you the history of Max 9, that is a bespoke vehicle. It's a monocoque hull, V-shape. So if you look at that vehicle, it's also blast resistant, which you need mines and so on in military. And that's also, I mean, we talked about B6 level. Now we're talking about military grade, which is basically Stanach. They call it Stanach level 1, 2. And that will stop your armor piercing rounds.
Wow.
So what you shot at it, AK ball round, you just laughed at it. I think you took the paint off last time.
Yes, I mean, there literally wasn't a dent.
No. So that is completely for a different market. We've also got an office in the Saudi region, so I'll just drop it there, and you can imagine where these vehicles are aimed for. But yeah, on the military side, it's quite interesting. Also, if you look at the time frames of introducing a vehicle in military and then selling it and so on, compared to the civilian side, it takes a lot longer. The military, the time it takes to bring a vehicle to market to sell it is a lot longer than with civilian vehicles.
I'd imagine, obviously, military, the sign-off process, the admin must just be...
So the regulations and all those kind of things, they talk about end-user certificates that need to be applied for. So, the military side of things is completely different, and sometimes you can pull your hair out.
I'm sure.
And it's interesting.
How many of your vehicles go over for use over the border in sub-Saharan Africa?
So we do have, obviously our neighboring countries do use some of our vehicles. We thought Mozambique, for example, Botswana, Zimbabwe, we've got some vehicles there. Even higher up in Africa as well, but it's not massive volumes at this stage. Obviously, we're trying to grow the market into Africa as well, but you also struggle sometimes with left-hand drive, right-hand drive. So if it's a left-hand drive vehicle, you need to convert. It's a bit tricky because then you, first of all, if the vehicle's not produced in South Africa and left-hand drive, you need to import, and then you need to convert, you need to export. So it becomes a bit of a tricky exercise. If the vehicle is built in left-hand drive as well, because we export from South Africa, like the Ranger, for example, is also built left-hand drive to South Africa, then we can sort of have an arrangement where we can get the vehicle from the production line, armor it, and then export it. So we obviously looking to grow the business all the time, and the rest of the world is in the radar, but most of our volume currently is still in South Africa.
The V-Class, can you get B4 and B6 V-Class?
So unfortunately with V-Class, that's obviously the luxury minibus from Mercedes. B6 is just too heavy for that vehicle. So if you look at the mass that we would have had, remember that the area that you need to cover in the bus is massive. So if we had to armor it at B6 level, you can either have armor or passengers, not both, which is a bit pointless.
Yeah.
So B4 armor level is where it's at. We're very proud of it because, I mean, that is the first, I would say, indeed approved like luxury shuttle in South Africa, which you can buy. So if you're a hotel owner, you need a luxury shuttle to go and collect people at the airport, bring back VIP transport. Yes, it's only a handgun protection. B4 is 44 Magnum, so it's quite a powerful handgun. But you talk about also the brick throwing, all those kind of things. To make your VIP customers a bit feel a bit safer, that's the way to go.
That's very interesting. And how does it work, right? So do I walk into a Merc dealership, buy a V-Class, and then it gets sent to you?
So it is basically still a Mercedes purchasing exercise. So yes, you can go to any dealership in South Africa, Mercedes dealership, walk in, order your V-Class, and as you would have ticked for any of the options, you tick armoring.
Wow.
It gets added, they can finance it. Yes, the vehicle will come to us. At the moment, the plan is that the vehicle will probably go back to the dealership for the official handover, but if the client wants to, he can actually come and collect it from our facility. Most of the clients are very interested in the process as well. They want to see the facility. They might want to see a ballistic test. We've got an underground test facility at our Pretoria facility. You can actually see online that the shoot-through series that we've done, and we can talk about that for a bit as well.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to buy a car and also want to see, but I want to see my B6, the armor material resist AK-47, we can show it to them.
So you're happy for the vehicle's owner you're happy to host them at SVI and show them their car actually being built?
Definitely. I would actually propose you do it. If you spend that amount of money on a car, go and visit the facility that will do it, see who does the handiwork, And it will also show you, I mean, the facility, you've been there a couple of years ago. Our facility has expanded so much now that I joke to you that we bought a golf cart now. So if you come to visit, we can take you with a golf cart through all the factories just to give you the idea of the size of the facility now.
Amazing. I mean, from a business perspective, SVI is a successful startup. It's a successful South African company.
They say at the moment, if you're doing the right things and you're in solar or security, you're doing well. So, but the thing is, I think if you're a front runner in the industry, you need to work really hard to be in that position. And we pride ourselves to deliver the quality products that people expect on time. And as I say, we've got quite a few reference out there, and we've got returning customers. And I think that's the way to grow a business.
Is it the same with Ranger and Everest? Is it the same as V-Class?
Same with that. Walk into your Ford dealership, order. Interesting question I always get is Raptor.
Okay.
So people want to buy Raptor and then they want to go B6 armor level on it because it's just, it is the coolest double cab bucket out there. Let's just put it out there. The problem is with armoring on a Raptor is that the payload is very low on a Raptor because of that fancy Fox suspension in the car. So if you look at the payload of a Raptor, it's around 400 kilograms, whereas standard Ranger double cab is close to a ton. So Ford South Africa said that they will void the warranty if a B6 armor level is put on a Raptor. So you can do B4 handgun protection on a Raptor. Any of the other Rangers you can do B6, but not the Raptor. So if you go into the dealership, you can order your Ford Ranger or Raptor if you want. You do the armoring. You can pay via Ford credit, your warranty, service plan, everything.
Oh, so you can actually finance the armoring as part of the deal.
Exactly.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yes, that's correct.
So, and you do Everest as well?
So Everest we will do. On a previous gen Everest we did not, but on a new gen we're starting with a project in January on new Everest, also B6 level. And I think that's actually a very nice vehicle in that segment, in the sense that Land Cruiser 300 is the most popular VIP SUV, but you're talking about 1.9 million rand vehicle, and then you add the million rand armor. But then if you look at where Everest is 1.1, 1.2 million for the base car, and you're looking at also a very much a luxury vehicle. You can't compare it to the current, for example, Fortuner anymore. So it might actually have a very niche market for armoring where it is priced at, and that's actually, we're looking forward to doing quite a few Everests next year until I think the Prado arrives, then that will also be very popular, I think.
Okay. Do you do Fortuner?
Yes, Fortuner. We do a lot of B6s, and some of our clients, even they can afford any vehicle out there, they buy a Fortuner and armor it, because if you're out on the road, you're in a sea of Fortuners, nobody knows who you are, where you are. So if you want to disappear, buy a Fortuner.
I see, because an LC300, or a G-Wagon,
you stand out a bit.
Quite a bit.
Exactly.
And when you add, I think you mentioned it was 650 kgs with B6. What is the effect on the brakes? You mentioned the suspension in the Hiluxes gets upgraded, but in an LC300, do you have to make modifications to the brakes and suspension?
So if you're still within GVM of the vehicle, technically you don't have to upgrade the brakes because it was designed for that mass. You're basically driving a fully loaded vehicle going on holiday all the time, if you think about it. But the suspension we do upgrade because we want to have the ride height as well close to the standard vehicle out there. You don't want it to sit lower and look different to the other vehicles out there. So we do upgrade suspension. From a driving point of view, your center of gravity at B6 level, obviously 650 or 700 kilograms, depending on what options you choose, is higher than a standard car. So we also offer an advanced driving course on armored vehicles, 5 modules, CETA accredited at SVI. If you do the full course, it's a week. It starts from the theoretical thing about, I'm getting into an armored vehicle, what is it, what level of armor, where is it armored, how can I identify it, to off-road driving, to night driving, convoy driving. We even go to Red Star Raceway and you go on a skid pan in an armored car. All this training is done in armored vehicles, so that you can understand that you can't approach a corner at the same speed as with the unarmored vehicle. And it also helps you in a sense if you want to get away. We've got, actually you need to come and do that as well, Giro.
Yeah.
If you want to push cars out of the way, do this, the maneuver where you push cars out and get to safety. We do all of those kind of things as well. So when you're in an armored vehicle, especially B6 level, keep in mind it is heavier. The braking distances might be slightly longer, but the brakes are still, as I say, capable. be careful of the corners, not to go too fast. Land Cruiser 300, for example, I think even the standard car, I sometimes feel that petrol engine at close to 300 kilowatt can get you into trouble where the suspension can't get you out with the 300, even a standard car.
Yeah.
So add a bit of mass and then you can imagine what you sit with. But if you drive it within the capabilities of the vehicle, it's actually a lovely car to drive. The bit of extra mass sometimes even helps with the ride quality.
I see.
People will say, well, what about fuel consumption? So I always say, fuel consumption doesn't really come into it if you're a 2 million rand vehicle, but if add about a liter per 100 for the extra mass, it's like going on holiday. The vehicle is a bit heavier than standard, but it's still a very nice experience. And you can sometimes forget that you're in an armored car, and that's actually what we want to achieve on this VIP vehicles. You don't want the fact that it's armored impact on the way you drive day to day with this vehicle.
And we'll put some footage on the screen, but the shoot through series, that's not the correct word for it. But we were going to actually work on it together. It was just a bit tough because you're in Pretoria, we're down here, obviously. But essentially, you're doing super slow motion bullets going through car parts, right?
Yes. So we did this very interesting series this year because always we talk around the braai and it always comes up now, can you shoot through engine block? And we thought, well, let's see if we can shoot through various standard automotive components. And I always joke when you look at these old school police movies and so on, where the cop will jump out of the car and he will shoot like over the door. And the door is basically no resistance to any fire. I mean, it's like a piece of paper in front of him, but for the movie, it looks cool if he shoots over the door. So what we've done is in collaboration with the CSIR, we got their high-speed camera. I mean, that thing is over R1 million camera. So we had to build a special sort of enclosure with bullet-resistant glass for that camera to look through, so we don't damage this R1 million camera with all the shrapnel and whatever comes off while we shoot. And we've got this 30-meter underground ballistic testing facility, which we use to validate materials and so on. We don't call it a shooting range, it's a ballistic test lab. So what we did was we took an AK-47, we mounted it so we're accurate every time. And then we chose different. We started off by shooting a Land Cruiser brake disc to see, can you shoot through a brake disc? Can you shoot through a shock absorber? Can you shoot through an engine block? And we captured the impact, the moment of impact with that CSIR high-speed camera. So if you look at the videos, the first one, I think the duration is about 2-3 minutes. The others are like a minute each or minute and a half. There was introduction in the first episode, and we do like 14 episodes. And we actually show you the slow-mo impact of the round, and it gives you a lot of respect of the energy that this round is capable of dissipating. And what we've also done with that series is debunked a few things. Like, for example, can you DIY armor your car, doing it yourself with like mild steel plate? So we choose like mild steel. We did it like a 3mm mild steel plate, and we did then a 6mm mild steel plate. And if you pick up that plate, it's heavy. You think there's no way that an AK can shoot through this. It feels safe. You put it up in a lab, and that AK punches holes through it, like almost look like it's drilled. Wow. Unbelievable. And you can see the slow-mo. And then, just for reference, we put up an armor steel plate, and you see how that works. So you can't DIY your car, unfortunately.
So what makes that steel special? I mean, how is it? Is it treated in some way? Is it compressed, or how does it become an armored piece of steel?
Yeah, so always talk about the virgin ore coming from underneath the ice in Sweden, and it is a very controlled process to produce armor steel plate. Now, I'm not a complete expert on it, but the idea is to also heat it up and quench it, and to get the hardness. I could talk about engineering terms, Brunel hardness of that steel, incredibly hard. So where a mild steel plate you can easily bend, some of these armor steel plate are so hard that they will break like a pane of glass if you try to bend them. And that hardness is actually able to resist the energy.
I see. That's absolutely fascinating, Nicol. I want to say thank you very much for coming. I think we've been going for about an hour now. It feels like we could probably go for another hour. But where can people find you and find out more information and order cars from you? How does that work?
Yeah, so obviously we're very active on all social media channels out there. If you just search for SVI Engineering in the normal, I want to say Twitter, but let's say X. and your Instagrams and your Facebook, and we're even on TikTok, believe it or not.
And you've got a big YouTube channel as well.
Big YouTube channel, and everything that was also showed on the screen while you watch this podcast, go to our channel, SVI Engineering. You'll see all the full videos there, and then obviously our website, svi.co.za. And you'll find all the contact details there. You can also get my number on the contact page. Phone me anytime and we can discuss.
Amazing. And I think it's high time that we come back and maybe film the facility and just show how these cars are put together. I mean, I've seen you showed me I can't remember what it was now, but with the interior out, and it's one of the craziest things I've ever seen, like just this bare chassis of a brand new car. You know, it's amazing to see. So I'd like to see it again, and I'd love to drive Max 3. So hopefully look out on the channel for that. We'll try to get that done probably early next year, I would say, because this year is running out pretty quickly. And then Nicol, we definitely got to have you back. We got to chat about Joule. We got to chat about what it's like to develop series production engines. I mean, I think you just have such a wealth of experience I'd love to share with our audience. So you're going to come back.
Definitely. We'll invite
Fantastic.
you, and you can invite me. It's 100%.
Okay, amazing. Well, thank you very much for watching and or listening. We really appreciate your time here at Cars.co.za. It's been wonderful to chat to you, Nicol. Thank you very, very much. We'll do this again. And check out Cars.co.za has obviously a wide variety of services as well. If you're looking, best place to look for your used car or new car. Also, you can sell your car through us. So check out the Sell Car service on Cars.co.za. And then, of course, we're happy to engage with you on all of our socials. And we hope that you'll subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Nicol, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're signing off. We'll catch you on the next one. Cheers. Bye-bye. Be safe.
Cars.co.za.
Are you looking for a gift for a certain petrol head in your life? Well, on the Sentimental shop run by Cars.co.za, we have an array of perfect gifts for the car lover in your life. Check it out. You can find exclusively designed t-shirts, exclusive prints. There's model cars as well. There's books. There's even driving gloves. I might actually get myself pair of those. So check out the link. There's a link somewhere here just next to me, which will take you straight to the shop, and let us know what you bought.